How are you? I'm Joe Sorrentino, CEO of Lean Quality Systems. Today we're going to talk about one of the most dear of processes to me, and that's design and development planning. And that's engineering, strictly engineering. And we're going to talk about design and development, the planning, the input, the output, the controls that we have on it, and the changes that take place, the changes, how to control the changes. This is a very important section. Let's say I come up with a concept. I want a vehicle, say an electric vehicle that goes down the highway. Also, it has the capability to hover off of the highway when things get a little tough and then take off over the traffic and then come down in another location where traffic is real light. And I put that up to an engineer. I say, prototype and design, can you make this happen? And they'll get in the room and actually do something to make it do whatever you say it is, whatever the concept is, whatever you want it to do. That's our engineers. That's prototype and design. Section 8.3, design and development, planning, inputs, controls, output, and changes. How we're going to deal with that. This is very important because we're actually building something. We're taking a concept and we're going to make it something tangible. They say that the organization shall establish, implement, and maintain a design and development process appropriate to the product or service. And this is usually based on the complexity of the part or the service that we provide. During the stages of controls, consider the nature, duration, and the complexity, the process stages including reviews, verification and validation, responsibilities and authority, who's going to do this, internal and external sources needed. We're going to look at the need to control interfaces between personnel involved. In other words, how are they communicating, what their boundaries of authority and responsibility are. Do we need the customer and user's involvement? Requirements for subsequent provisions and supplies coming after. Levels of controls expected by the customer or other relevant interested parties. Documented information demonstrating the design and development requirements were met. The design and development inputs are essential for specific types of products and services to be designed and developed. We have to consider functional and performance requirements, how it's going to be used, information derived from previous similar designs and development activities. Sometimes we use an existing product and we just modify it for a new customer. Applicable statutory and regulatory requirements, the standards or codes the organization has committed to implement, the potential consequences of failure due to the nature of the product or service. Apply controls to the design and development process to ensure results are defined and achieved. In other words, this is what we have to meet, this is what we meet. Review to evaluate results, different reviews at different stages. Verification of the output are met. We have the input saying we have to do this, this, and this. The output has to say we did this, this, and this. Validation to ensure the product and services meet the specification requirements and its intended use. Actions are taken on problems during the reviews or verification and validation. Anytime there's a problem, it has to be resolved right then. Documents of these activities are retained. Design and development, reviews, verification, validation can be conducted separately or in any combination. When outputs are not met, actions are defined. What are we going to do if we don't meet the output? In other words, we have the input saying we have to do this, this, and this. The output, we didn't do this, but we did this and this. What are we going to do about it? Progression to the next stages is authorized. In other words, it goes into stages of development. And it doesn't go to the final stage or to the next stage until it's authorized to move into that stage. Design and development reviews must include the representative of the function being reviewed. In other words, reviewed by who and who did we review. Reviews, verification, and validation can be conducted separately or in combination with another review. This section here, section 8341, deals with test plans, acceptance test plans. When tests are necessary, these tests shall be planned, controlled, reviewed, and documented. Test plans and specifications are identified. Test objectives and conditions are identified. Parameters and acceptance criteria are recorded. Test procedures describe the method, the test, and how to record the result. The correct configuration of the test item is submitted for the test. Test plan and tests are observed. Equipment will be calibrated, but they're observed. Tests are observed. Acceptance criteria are met. And at the completion of the design and development, all reports, calculations, test results demonstrate the product definitions are met and the specifications for all operational conditions as to how it's going to be used. Ensure design and development outputs. Now we have to meet all the input requirements for design and development to make sure that the inputs are met. They are adequate for subsequent processing for provisions of the product and services. They include requirements, monitoring and measuring requirements, and acceptance criteria. Always, if you don't have acceptance criteria, then don't perform the test. Specify the characteristics of the product that are essential to the safe and proper use. We have to identify what they are. And we record and retain all documentation on design and development output. And on the output, we always have to specify any critical items, including key characteristics and specified actions to be taken, what these are. The outputs are approved prior to release. Define data required to allow the product to be identified, manufactured, verified, used, and maintained. Data such as drawings, part lists, specifications necessary, design features, material, process, manufacturing, assembly, tech data, repair schemes for operations, etc. This is what we talk about when we talk about data. Now, changes. This is very important because this is all part of that configuration management. Identify, review, and control changes during or subsequent to the design and development necessary to ensure no adverse impact on conformity of requirements. Have a process and criteria to notify customer about changes prior to making the changes. Documented information shall be retained on design and development changes, the results of reviews, authorization of the changes, who authorized them, actions taken to prevent adverse impacts. The next section we're going to get into is section 8.4, and we're going to deal with procurement or control of external providers, processes, products, and services. And the important thing about that is we have to be on the lookout for counterfeit parts because we're procuring from all over the world, and we have to make sure we know exactly where these parts are coming from, who's providing them, and whether the traceability can bring us back to that specific part where it was manufactured, who manufactured it.